It didn't work. So now it's recording. I'm gonna share the screen again. Okay. Hello everyone. So this is gonna be like an interview session. So I'm gonna do a very brief presentation, and then after that, I will be open to listen all of your questions, and I'll answer all of your doubts. Before we start, I would like to ask you: did you choose this topic? Like, did you choose to join the presentation, or were you randomly assigned to it? Someone say something, please.
I chose.
You chose it? Oh, okay, thank you. Everyone chose it then? Okay. Do you guys know who Pablo Escobar is? Have you ever heard about him before? You haven't? Okay. So, I'm going to start then introducing who is Pablo Escobar, or who he was, because he's actually already dead. So Pablo Escobar was born in Antioquia, in Colombia, in 1949. He was the biggest drug dealer during the 80s and early 90s, like the wealthiest in the history of drug dealing. He was a narco-terrorist, and he was the sole leader of the cartel of Medellin. And he has been having like a huge impact in Colombia history, and in the way Colombia is represented in the media, especially international media. So what kind of representation have been given to him by shows like Narcos in Netflix, or like Pablo Escobar or Patron in Netflix? Well, it has created this like glorified image of him as a leader, of someone who has like been loved by people and like respected, kind of a hero, and like a savior. And it has become also kind of a role model for some foreigners that see him as this like rich and powerful person that well, had all the money and all the ladies. And why is this an issue, or why did I decide to talk about it? Is because the reality is that the image that the media has been portraying of him just is not the reality, and it's not what it should actually be. Because this person was someone who really tamed and hurt Colombia in many ways, not only Colombia, the country itself, but its people, its political system, in like in all the senses. And he was responsible for thousands of deaths. Literally, he put bombs everywhere and declared war to the state when things didn't go his way. There are many families. There are so many families that I directly or indirectly have suffered the loss of family member due to his actions. And he has left like a deep scar in Colombia's history. There is a stigma that goes around with Colombians no matter where we go, and it was due to his actions. He not also did that, but I think the biggest issue is that he left us a big legacy of corruption. He owned the country basically during that time, and it was a very corrupted time for Colombian history. And unfortunately, up to today, up to this day, that legacy is still there, and it's something that we're still fighting. And I already mentioned this, but yeah, it not besides all of that, plus along with all of those the things that I mentioned before already, he left us with a stigma. So anytime I travel, anytime I go and I say I'm Colombian, if someone have hear or seen this media interpretation of who Pablo Escobar is, it doesn't match with the reality, and we have this negative stigma of cocaine, drugs, and Pablo Escobar, which most of Colombia, I will say, a really high percentage of Colombians, well, do not feel comfortable with it. So therefore I felt like this was a good opportunity to talk about it and express like real Colombian thoughts, and not what the media has been portraying. So Colombia is not just its history and drugs and Pablo Escobar. Like, there is so much more about my country, I believe. I think the warmth of the people, of its people, coffee, emerald flowers, and music, and I don't know, just a sense of, even I would say that even we have all these horrible things in our history, people find joy in in the little things, and that's something that I really love. And until here is like the small presentation about Pablo Escobar from a Colombian perspective. I'm gonna stop sharing the PPT, and you're free to ask as many questions as you would like. Thank you. No one.
I have a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so what are the after effects you're seeing right now in the government system, or in population in general, that are left by the Pablo Escobar?
I would say, like as I mentioned, the corrupt, like he left such a huge legacy of corruption because he literally owned the country. This was a man who had so much money that he created an army. He had his own personal army. He had so much power, and he bought people. So he went to the poor areas of the country, the poor areas, and then he started giving, like what the government was not doing, he started doing it for the people. So he started giving them money and houses and everything. And why he wanted to do that? Because he just wanted to buy votes. He wanted to run and become part of the parliament, and to have power, enough power to stop whatever law that will make narco traffics being extradited to the United States. Once things didn't go his way, he just started putting, like literally just, he will say, I need this person killed, and I don't care how many civilians die on the way. So if he needed to put, he did this. He put a bomb on an airplane where hundreds of people were killed because he wanted to kill one person. And that person wasn't even in the airplane, you know? So he, and up to today, like Colombia is a very corrupted country. There is a lot of corruption in the government, and I think it did, like I will say that it is still linked to the narco traffic. Maybe he's not anymore. Well, he's already dead, but that, like that core of corruption is still there, and that was something that, I'm not gonna say there was not corruption before him, but he strengthened it to a point that it's been a cancer. It's a cancer that is still killing us, you know, it's still killing the country. And still, I think we have a few more generations to really see some real change. Yeah, I will say that.
Actually, that was my next question. Like, did he leave some kind of legacy, like visibly or not visible?
Well, as I mentioned, he did try, like he had some political interest. Once there was discussion for extradition, he didn't want that to be approved, and he tried to buy people for that. When that was not enough, he was like, okay, I need to run, I need to be part of, he realized I need to be in the politics, so like myself, not only buy the people, I need to be there. So he did build out, like give money to poor communities, build houses for them, schools and stuff. So in the way of like material things that you could see, yeah, in some, it's called comunas in Medellin, which is a big area, like a big city in Colombia, like the second biggest city. He did build stuff. So yeah, you could see it, but the intention behind was not an intention of, hey, I want to help people. Intention behind that is like, I need to manipulate these people. And actually just for the sake of his power, you know. And once people realized that, like, because these poor people didn't, nobody knew at the time when he started doing this that he was a narco traffic. Like there were rumors but no proof. And he won the election. Actually, he was for a period of time in the government, like in an official position. Once people start talking about it, like news really publish articles, and like some other politicians start like saying, hey, this guy has links with illegal actions. He was taken off of his position, and he started killing everyone. He will put bombs everywhere. And he will have people called sicarios in Spanish that literally went just running around killing whoever needed to be killed just because he thought that person needed to be dead, you know. So yeah, there are things, but it, um, it's not good anyways. That everything good that he might have done lose its value once you see the reason behind, I will say. But yeah, thank you for the question.
One last question. So,
Mhm.
like you are part of the newer generation
Yeah,
after this part.
yeah.
So, what are you seeing in the this generation, which is like, is it trying to eradicate the corruption or the legacy of Pablo Escobar that he left in Colombia? Like,
Mhm.
what of what can you observe as a part of this generation? What people are trying to do?
I think our biggest strength for the new generation is where we are being more educated. Like Colombia is still a developing country, so therefore, in the 80s, 90s, like a lot less people were educated, in new things and had the opportunity to really compare. So when you are ignorant, and you don't really know what's going on, it's very easy to be manipulated, and it's very easy to believe whatever the media tells you or whatever politicians want to sell you. But as we get more educated and we know reality better, then we have a higher level of analysis in our capacity of see things for in a more not what or not believing just whatever they fed us, have give us the power to be able to choose better and hopefully make better decisions, and hopefully, really hopefully, to choose better politicians. Like I say hopefully because still it's like, politicians sell one thing, but after they become elected, that might change. So let's see. I mean, I don't lose hope. So, and I do believe I can see around my circle of friends and the people that I surround myself, and even for the upcoming elections, I can see that there is being a change of ideology in our people. So I really hope it gets better. Thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions?
So I was wondering, could you maybe recommend some like films or even TV episode about this person, or
Oh,
even are there some documentaries?
there are some documentaries. Unfortunately, I don't have right now the name of it. I could search, but there are some send you later on Netflix. There are these two shows. It called Narcos and Pablo Escobar, literally. And some of them, the thing is, they there are some things that are factual. Like there are some things that you see them. I have seen not all of the show, but I have seen some things, and I'm like, yeah, did this happen? Like putting the bomb here and killing all these people. Did this happen? Or saying this thing, it did happen, but it needs to be taken with perspective. And that's what I'm trying to fight. This is that for international for foreigners when they watch this kind of documentaries, because they don't know the blood history that is behind all of this. They usually just take, especially I would say guys mostly, they will just take the part of like, oh, he's a man and he got all this money and all these women, and the United States was trying to get him, and everyone was trying to get him, and he could get away. Like, what a cool guy. And what I'm trying to say is like that's just not the reality. Like it's part of our history, and I think it needs to be talked about it. We need to know it and we need to face it. But I would like for foreigners, when they see this, that see it like, hey, this guy, yeah, he did all this crazy shit, which sometimes you might laugh because even it's like unbelievable that he had so much power, but there was a price, like a high price that or people pay for it, I guess. So if you want to watch those shows or official documentaries, either is fine. It's just now you have like a more of a real underlying base of information for it. Yeah, but I'm gonna check anyways.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have any other questions? Feel free. You can ask anything, like whatever. It doesn't have to be something like super elaborated. Just whatever you feel like curious about it. Okay. So
Hello, Irene.
yes, Professor.
So Thank you for the topic. I know very little about Colombian history and even Pablo Escobar. The only thing I know I'm familiar with is the sort of media portrayal, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
through movies like Sicario. There was a movie called Sicario, as you might know, and there's a popular Netflix series called Narcos, which I believe is about his life. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess the two questions I always wonder are, okay, how accurate are those? And two, are they, I guess, do you feel that those kinds of portrayals glorify or in some way paint negative things in a positive light, or maybe don't do a sufficient job of portraying the everyday experience, such as a person? I'm assuming you're an everyday person, typical, kind of citizen of the people, right? So what are your thoughts about that? Because you did mention this portrayal
Yeah.
and this perception of
Yeah.
Colombia.
So in the first question about the accuracy, I will say that there are things that are very accurate. Like many things did happen. Of course, there needs to be some fiction. They need to arrange things according to whatever story drama. Sometimes they need to extend the season, so they will just create things. It's a mix. But some things are very, very accurate. Like some things did happen, like the same way, or there are recordings of him at some part when he was like running away, and the police wanted to catch him, and they intercept his phone, and there are recordings of what he said that maybe in the show it's exactly the same, like they use exactly the same words and everything, but not 100%. That's like I will want to say. And yes, 100% the media, I think when people watch these shows, I need to connect my MacBook to the electricity. So when media portrays these shows, like they want to make money, so I do understand like they need to make profit, so sometimes make him likable. What I wanted to do with this PPT was just show that that's not the reality, and actually the price that Colombian people have paid for him, it's very high. And sometimes I feel like, when I don't know, it happens to me so many times. I meet foreigners and I say, oh, I'm from Colombia, and the first thing they are like, oh, Pablo Escobar, Narcos, and they are like so excited and so happy about it. Well, I feel just so uncomfortable and like so sad, because I know the pain and the hazard, and like I have been directly affected by it. So it touched like very deep fibers on me, that it's just like, it's unfair that that people don't know, like both sides. They should be able to have all the facts and then see like, hey, okay, it's cool to know this is part of history. Some people, like, he did it, like it's not a lie. He did all these crazy things, and he did own the country basically. He did whatever he wanted, for real. But it has a price. It had a price tag, very high. And I think that's the part that it makes me feel like whenever I can speak about the topic, I should speak about the topic. I shouldn't just let it go, because I don't want to pretend like it didn't happen. It was not part of history. It was, and it still is. It will be forever. It happened. So yes, media does glorify Pablo Escobar, and most Colombian, I will say, feel very uncomfortable with that. And we actually always try to, when we can, and I have talked with my friends too, whenever we're having the experience with Colombian friends, and they always also say like, yes, we don't like this. And we usually try to say like, hey, jokes about cocaine, jokes about him or whatever, we're just not comfortable with it. Just rather not have it, because he's not a hero. And yeah, that's my take on the topic. Thank you for asking, Professor. Does anyone else have any other questions? I know the topic is very hard, and maybe if you have been in a developing country all your life and in a very safe environment, I will say, like, hearing all these horrible things happen, like suddenly, especially from someone that you have class every day, might feel too much or too hard to deal with sometimes. But I think part of like life has blacks, whites, and gray colors, so we should know all of those things. It's important, I believe. So I really thought like this was a good opportunity to just share some knowledge, and I don't know, maybe learn something new today. Yeah. Do we have any more questions?
Yeah. I did have a question, but I guess you mentioned it. Like I was going to ask, were you or anybody around you were affected by the legacy of Pablo Escobar? Because it was very recent that he died. I believe in 1993. I just googled it,
Yeah,
so it was recent.
yeah.
So wanted to ask if you have
Mm,
any effect
I
of
will
it on
say,
your life.
sorry to interrupt, to cut you
That's
off.
fine.
I will say every Colombian has been affected indirectly, like everyone, even the future that will come will be affected indirectly by it. In my case, I have been directly affected. Like my father was killed when I was a little girl, and he was not involved in anything. He was just a civilian, but in Pablo Escobar already had passed away, but the legacy of narco traffic that he left led to a lot of internal conflict in our country, from two main groups that has been we're fighting or still fighting. I don't even know anymore, for resources, for money, narco traffic money areas. And just as my father was killed by luck, bad luck, I will say. I do think it's legacy is part of the legacy of him, and I do know that this is not. It might seem, oh wow, like, but it's not an isolated case. It has happened. It happened to me, and it has happened to many millions of other Colombians. It's just a sad part of our reality, I will say. It is what it is. But yes, yeah. That's all I can say about it. Any other questions? I know the
But
topic
thank
is
you very
heavy.
much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, but thank you for sharing because I never knew about this. I personally never watched Pablo Escobar because I knew that media is always portraying something which makes their viewers grow. So I don't
Yeah,
usually watch, especially when it comes to crimes like drug dealings and murders.
yeah.
And True Crime, which is a documentary. So I will be considerate towards this topic from now on. Thank you very much for your
You're
information.
welcome. You're welcome. Well, I just hope like I mean I'm not saying that people shouldn't know. I just say like now from now on, if you guys watch it, at least now you have a more real perspective of what he did, the impact of what he did, and who he was. Yeah, and I guess
Thank you
that was the
very
goal.
much.
You're welcome. You guys have any other questions? And are we okay with the time? I'm not sure.
Yeah, we just have 1 minute left.
Okay, so I guess if we have no more questions, I want to say thank you everyone for listening to my presentation. And yeah, we can just go back to the main room. Thank you.
Thank you, Irene.